written by an old white man who graduated from an Ivy League college, who was inherently privileged and never had to think about being a caretaker in the format of the way he structured his business and the way that he went about doing it. And who also, by the way, probably didn't bleed out for 7 days a month and go through a hormonal cycle and all of it. I mean, come on. Like, obviously, we can fucking do better and we deserve better than having to pick either, am I going to run myself into the ground or am I going to be a mom?
Hi, I'm Phoebe. Hi, I'm Jacque. Welcome to Do You Ever Feel Like?
Where we ask the questions that everyone's thinking and no one's answering.
There we go. We did it. And today, okay, wait, before I introduce our guest, I have a retraction from last week.
Yes.
Potentially, I changed my mind about. I changed my mind about Fleischman's in Trouble.
Okay.
And it was not written by a man. It's a book written by a woman. However,
the more you know.
The more you know. And it wasn't until I didn't start liking it until the show started talking about women, because what do I not care about is a white man.
Yeah.
Not a compelling character for me.
Yeah.
But my understanding is that this is not the book is a little bit more 50-50 man and the woman. Like the first 2/3 of this TV show was about this man that I don't really much care about. And once we started talking about women, I was like, this is an excellent episode of television that I am watching.
Wow.
So I've changed my mind. It's a very good show.
Great.
Would recommend. Anyway, that's my retraction for the week. How are
Love
you? Do you have a retraction from the week?
Me showing up today is a retraction of the week.
I know, it's been boss. I keep saying I'm in my capitalist girl boss era.
It is. We've been so busy.
I mean, I'm not, but I am.
You're in, one that you can ethically get down with.
Yeah, I'm in an ethical girl boss era. But today on the podcast, we have Emily. Speaking of being in your ethical girl boss era, I think Emily would literally hate.
Yes. That's so funny. Yes, Emily. Oh, it was such a fun
It was
chat.
such a great conversation.
Yeah.
Well, you've been friends with Emily for a long time. We talk about this.
I've been friends with Emily for a long time. And I just think that a lot of the stuff we talked about, if you are a woman on the internet, this is a conversation for you.
Yeah.
If you're a woman who owns a business, this is a conversation for you. If you're an artist or woman or creative or, even an othered person in the world, too, that are trying to do things differently in the business space, this is a conversation for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's great. We chat about friendship we chat about friendship and I don't know, the unexpected friendships that you might have as a woman and kind of maintaining friendships as a woman. We talk about the coaching industry, which is super fun. Emily's been a coach for 8-9 years, I think.
Yep.
We chat about perfectionism. Yeah, we chat about being a woman in business, and we chat about all the other stuff that kind of circles around it. So it's thank you, Emily. And we recorded this episode back in December too, which is I don't know. I think that says something about us. It says something about the thing. I don't know. It's just a time and a place, and it's been interesting. I always love having guests on for many reasons, but this was just really special, and it's a little time capsule, I guess, for us to revisit.
Yeah. Emily Cassel is the founder and CEO of WMNûp. As a business strategist and leadership consultant, Emily's work draws from her background in positive psychology, sustainability, women's leadership, business, and entrepreneurship, and her uniquely impactful experience attending an all-women's college, which we talk about in the episode. Emily is the host of the podcast Like Nobody's Business, is the author of 2 journals, the 52-week Motivational Journal and the 90-day Goals Journal with Rockridge Press, and has been featured on Off the Vine with Kaitlyn Bristowe, with Whit, with Whitney Port, and the Priestess Podcast with Julia Parker. Her work has been featured in the Huffington Post, The Atlantic, and Skirt Charleston. Emily lives in Charleston, South Carolina with her fiance, Jeff, their mini Aussie Shepherd, Kai, and their goofy Golden Doodle, Wilson.
Which I think we get 2 cameos from them as well.
Yes. Wilson and Kai pop up. You can find her stress-baking delicious gluten-free and dairy-free treats. Ooh, very specific. Performing a full Broadway revue in her convertible with the top down, or swimming in the ocean after soaking up some sun on the beach. Aw,
gorgeous. Well, thank you so much to Emily, and enjoy our conversation with Emily Cassel.
Enjoy the episode.
Do you ever feel like being a woman in business, perhaps?
Yes. Do you ever feel like being a woman in business? Oh, and also check out the notes because we have a little gift from Emily to listeners there as well.
Ooh, and before you go as well, if you didn't stick around, we didn't chat about it, but Patreon is available. Mm-hmm. Come join us over on Patreon. You can check it out in the show notes. We have our bonus episode going up this month, uncut audio. And if you want to chat and work with Jacque and I more, we have opportunities to do that. So it really helps support the pod. And if you want to support us for free $99, you can consider leaving a little review down below. Tell us what you like about it.
Review.
All the things. Okay. Enjoy this episode with Emily. And
that's it.
Because
this is actually like the perfect guest to have on for this idea, because it's like December and we are doing the pod that's not going to be out until the end of January. Mm-hmm. I feel like Emily Coach, who has coached me in my business and in my life, would be very proud of this version of Jacqueline right now, is all I'm saying.
Very proud. Very proud. Good job.
This version of Jacqueline that moves at the pace in which she says, although I did get a text from you at 5:30 a.m. this morning, so.
One time she called me at like 7.
Stop.
I was like,
stop.
Pardon
I know, and
moi,
she's like
who
been
is doing
up
this?
For a couple of hours and like is telling you about her day.
I'm like, love
poor
you,
Jacque,
but...
she you invite 2 of your friends to talk shit
oh
about
God, here we go.
On your own podcast. It's a completely different dynamic than what we have scheduled. Yeah. This is an intervention, actually.
No. We could say probably 5 to 10 amazing things for every little
for every insane person.
Every like funny quirk that we actually love but think is wild.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I've been really on my phone boundaries. Phoebe, the other day you joked, you were like, or no, this wasn't the other day. You say all the time, like, we do not hear from Jacque from 8 to 6 in the morning or 8 to 8, like, or whatever. Yeah. Like, that's just not, because I put my phone down and now I sleep and I get up at 5:30 in the morning. This is just who I am now.
Brag. Stop bragging about sleep.
No, it's been a journey. Anyways, yeah, so we have a while till this comes out. Look at us, like prepared girlies out here.
There we go.
So exciting. Emily, welcome.
Thanks for having me. So fun to be here with you.
Our pleasure. You've been on our, like, I think I've said this to all of our guests so far, but it's true. You've been on our list, like, when we started dreaming. Mm-hmm. We really need to put a proper timeline together, Jacque, but like, when we started thinking about this podcast, we're like, yep, and Emily.
Oh,
yep.
Well, I'm so honored to hear that. I feel like I feel unworthy almost, because I just really actually love listening to this podcast and listening to the two of you banter. And Jacqueline will tell you that like every week that I listen, I'm like, oh my God, this quote, this thing.
Yes,
I'm like freaking out.
I love those.
Favorite.
We get a couple of folks who like the play-by-play.
Yes.
But it's so sweet. And likewise.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. It means a lot.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah. So, okay, yes, Emily's been on the pod. Emily's been on the list to come on the pod for various reasons. But I want to chat origin, as we always do, first. Yes. Which is that Emily and I met in college at Chatham University. I remember. Wait, Emily, have I told you this story? Probably.
No, your side of it, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I have never, okay, first of all, I never remember when I meet anyone. Like, I just feel like they just come into my life and then like they're just there. Like, it's like, I don't really ever remember. And I honestly don't know when I actually don't, I'm not even remembering like how we met.
I remember.
You do?
Do you want me to fill it in for you?
I have one thing to say. One thing to say. I remember seeing you for the first time, but I don't remember like the first interaction. But I remember seeing you for this first time with Hannah, and you were in Laughlin, and you were like walking up the stairs with Hannah or something. So we went to an all women's college that is no longer an all female college.
A
So
dream.
sad.
A
So
dream.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my God.
Great.
Could you imagine me at an all women's college?
I feel like my whole life is now oriented trying to recreate that experience in every moment. Like
for real. Actually, yeah, Emily, yeah, exactly.
I'm like, this is great. You need to experience it. Come join.
I mean, Emily, you talk about that as being like a really influential part of your business. Is that like time and, life? That's amazing. But we went to an all-female college, and I remember seeing you and being like, the thing kind of that I want to talk about today is that like, when I saw you for the first time, I was like, there's a lot that people can kind of assume about Emily because Emily's pretty and blonde and, whatever it is, right? Like, all of those things are great. You are great. You're gorgeous. You're blonde. You're beautiful. I love you. But like, there's kind of like this thing we do to women where we go like, oh, I'm categorizing you this way. You know what I mean? And I remember seeing you and being like, this is not someone that I would like kind of naturally float towards, but there's like something about Emily. Like, I literally remember seeing you and being like, oh, like, what is this energy? Like, I would not like, why am I like, there's like this thing here and I don't know what it is because you like, again, from that kind of stereotypical 17-year-old girl thing, I would have been someone in high school that would have been like, no, you know what I mean? Like those stupid, ingrained things. And I remember feeling into that. I seriously remember it. It felt like a jolt in me.
Wow.
And then I remember asking Sachiko, I love Sachiko, my roommate at the time, like, do you know who that is? Like, I was like investigating. And then after that, I don't remember how we actually met. But I remember there being like, there's something about Emily. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I mean, I don't know because I'm not outside of myself and I've never had that experience with myself. So I can't say that I know, but it makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, like, I don't know if like if you've ever met people where you're just kind of like, oh, like I wouldn't necessarily think that I would be like there would be this thing with us, but there is. And then we met, and I would love for you to tell that story because I don't remember. And then it was like, that was it. It was like done. And we have been close since then. And also kind of part of this like gorgeous group of women as well. That we're the Chatham girlies, but like it feels so special. I don't know to have that experience.
It does.
Anyways, how did we meet? I don't remember.
From my recollection, and I could be wrong, but I think the first memory I have of meeting and connecting with you was when you were moving in to Laughlin. I think maybe Hannah and I had been like out on campus somewhere and we were coming back and you were like trying to get in or something, or you had all your stuff that you were moving in with your mom and Jack. And I don't know that was like a moment that we really chatted.
I think that was the moment that I was describing though. Yeah.
Because I remember like I've never known you, and I was thinking about that at the wedding too, or whatever we call it, wedding party.
Yeah, it's fine. Call it a wedding. Yeah.
Okay, wedding. I was thinking about that. I was like, oh wow, I've never known you without Jack, because he was there in the original memory of meeting you and with your mom. It was so sweet. I know. I feel like I could cry. It's so sweet.
I know.
But yeah, and then you lived like right under me for the whole time. Like we were like right on top of the. I was like a floor up, but our rooms were directly
literally
above and
on top of
below.
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first snow? Do you remember that at Chatham?
I do.
And we were so excited and we walked to class together and we were like, it's the snow. It's amazing.
Oh my
We
God, I
took a
remember
picture.
that. I do remember
that.
that.
Was so cute.
I love snow.
What state is Chatham in?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's on the other side of the state. It's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cute. Oh, cute.
Mm-hmm.
So cute.
I love like little friendship origin stories like that.
Me too.
I think this is going to turn into me interviewing the both of you.
Great.
What is like, because I have a lot of female friendships that I'll say I would say the majority of like my close friends, there would be like a point in time in my life where I would say like, oh, I'm not friends with her, like, or like that's not the type of person I associate myself with, or so whatever internalized misogyny that gets passed down to us from the patriarchy that says like this woman is whatever moralization of this that we have. But when I think of my best, closest friends, or the people that have stuck around, that have been here for a long time, that have made an impact, that's been like there's something about that person across the room and I really want to get to know them. They are those people, and I think we are better human beings for those things. Like when we have, I don't know, like one of my best friends is like a sports person. And like I only speak to artists, but then I have my sports friend who like does all her sports stuff. And I like, that's just like, it's an oversimplification of what makes a person and all of those like intersections, etc. Yeah, I don't know what my question is in there, but I think like I'm curious about that. Yeah. And in your work as well, Emily, like when you're coaching women, and like the containers that when people are like intersecting with each other. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a question. It's just like this internalized misogyny that we have where it's like, her and I can't possibly be one. Like for whatever reason that we like give ourselves.
Yeah.
I guess my view on that, in having many different contexts of relationships with women in different containers and different, whether I'm leading them or participating in them, and then an all women's college and friendships and all of it, is really just that we're always reflecting each other back to each other. And I think my favorite thing about women is we are so multidimensional. We are so dynamic. We are always changing. We are always evolving. We are always discovering. We're like hungry and have the desire to explore all aspects of ourselves, at least the women that I am surrounded by. I don't know that all women in the whole world ever are like that, but the women that I choose to surround myself with definitely are. And I love that. And I think there's also so much growth that happens when we recognize that we are all reflecting aspects of each other, like this sort of multidimensional prism of all these different sides and faces to the same or similar or different experiences. But I feel like the more that we can come into relationship with ourselves and recognize our own multidimensionality as well, and recognize that we aren't just one thing, and we aren't just one oversimplification, or we aren't just this, we aren't just the way that we look, or we aren't just the things that we like, or we aren't just any of that, then we can start to actually appreciate everybody else's multifaceted nature, even if it doesn't look like ours, and we can appreciate it and be fascinated by it and feel drawn in by it and feel inspired and expanded by that. And that, I think, in our friendship, like, we are not the same human, but I so appreciate all of the different things that you bring out of me, and all of the different things that you reflect to me, and even like have me think about or question that maybe just aren't on my radar in the day-to-day of my life. And it's such like a growth experience. And I love being around women who are different than me, or who have different experiences. I've had clients in containers before who, have experienced homelessness and have 2 kids and had 2 kids in that context. And then I've had women in the same experience who have never had anything close to that, who have grown up very comfortable, and who have lived a life of kind of, privilege and some ease. And there's so much, there gets to be this level of like appreciation and admiration and learning from each other in that context. And I think there's always a deeper thread that does connect us. And sometimes it's like, okay, sometimes certain people just aren't for you. It's not to say you have to surround yourself with everyone and have no boundaries and never be discerning about the people that you let into your life, and always like gaslight yourself into thinking that, oh, well, they're just, triggering something in me and that's for my healing. Some people just are not for you. Yeah. And some people are just, it's like a different frequency of resonance that you're just like, I don't like that note. It's not for me. Get it away. Yeah. And that's fine.
Yeah. 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 That's something that what you just said, Emily, like when we talk about like the growth in friendship, for me, that you teach me that like all the time. I like cherish you so much as a friend in that respect, because you show me all the time what boundaries look like. You show me all the time like how to take care of yourself. How to not gaslight yourself, how to feel into things. Like that is, I've been in so many situations where Emily is like, Jacqueline, no. Like
it's just a no. It's okay if it's a no. Let it be a no. It's fine. Yeah. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you have to explore this thing. Just, it's a no. It's fine. You're good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, like I like that's such a treat for me because of all my shit, but like, that just shows that I'm like really, I feel really kind of I don't know, like challenged by that in you, and also like empowered by that. You know what I mean? It's both. It's like it makes me like uncomfortable, and then it also makes me go like, okay, like I need to step into this too. And that I think is like, what is the point of friendship or relationship or anything if that's not in the corner, like in it, like life is so boring otherwise. Like I don't understand what people are doing out here.
I think that speaks to like us as, and I would be curious, Emily, like what you think maybe that is, but like the ability for somebody to look at, somebody else, a friend, a relationship, a business collaboration, etc., and feel maybe external or outside of whatever they perceive as that person's realm, but still have the curiosity and compassion and like interest and like self-trust to explore what that like looks like in relationship to each other. And I think that is like, fuck, is that not like the most beautiful thing as a human being you could ever do, is like to be curious about like, oh, maybe that person triggers something in me, which I think is like, for me, when I see another woman across the room in particular, with like whatever I've decided is like the moralization of the day or the moment, and have like the, I don't know, like the self-awareness to be like, oh, that says something about me and nothing about the other person. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think curiosity, like you said, Phoebe, is one of the things that I personally think we could all use way more of. And I try in my life to stay as curious as possible. And when I stop, when I stop feeling as curious as I like to be, that's a good sign for me to like check myself when I start. And then sometimes there's just stuff that I'm like, no, this is just the way it is. And there's like a really clear, like, I'm like, that's bullshit. And this is not. And I can see, I feel like I don't know. One of my gifts from my own shit is that I can also spot like people's BS a lot of the times right away. And I'm just like, no. But curiosity, I think for me is really definitely a core value and something that I try to bring into my work, but also into relationships and into how I do life every day. is I hate, I love routine and structure, but then I hate repetitiveness. Like I need novelty. Like I need things to be different. And I'm constantly questioning like, well, why do I do it that way? Or why am I assuming it has to be that way? And, you know, that's the dialogue that goes on in my head.
What is that like internal, or maybe it's internal, or what is that compass? Like, what does that feel like, that knowing of this is BS or this is an opportunity for me to be curious? Like, how does that present
how do you
itself for
decipher that?
That's a great question. I'm not sure I have a perfect answer, but I'll try to
That's never the requirement for this podcast.
I know. Let's see. I think sometimes there's just, maybe it's honestly the feeling that happens from like a visceral, intuitive place for me. And I think it's also like just reading people, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes someone's being like totally genuine, authentic, and you can feel that in what it is that they're saying or how they're presenting or whatever. And there's no like showboating, and there's no trying to prove, and there's no weird trying to like earn your love or love bomb you or something. And you can tell that someone is like genuine and grounded and centered, and they just maybe have a different opinion or a different perspective or a different way of seeing things. And for me, I'm always like, that makes me want to lean in when someone's truly like authentic and real with who they are, but they have maybe a differing opinion. And then I'm like, cool, that feels opening to me. And like, I want to lean in and go toward it. And when someone's like, well, you know, more like it's definitely coming from like an ego place or trying to prove or like affronting or like a power over, like a dominant thing, or you can just tell that there's like a disembodiment or something, like a disconnection. And I think we all have the ability to really feel and sense that. It's just some of us have that sort of like sense turned up a little bit more.
Yeah. Or we've been told that's like not a thing to listen to.
Right.
And I think women get that memo.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a whole, that's a whole topic. Yes, we do. Because we're so much easier to control and manipulate, and we can be more docile when, you know, we're not trusting ourselves, when we turn off our intuition, when we try to override it, right? Like, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I have been, for two reasons. One, because I'm fascinated by cults and high control groups and how that whole thing works. And it's like crazy. But I find it really fascinating from like a psychology perspective. And from a business perspective, because I'm always thinking like, let's do this better, you know, like, let's do this better. Whatever the concept of business is, like, can we reinvent it? Can we evolve it to make it better, to make it ethical, to make it for the betterment of the world and ourselves and each other and who we serve and all of it. But the other reason that I watch a lot of cult documentaries, and especially in the last year, is because it's the only thing that my fiance and I actually agree on watching. Like, our tastes are so different, but like somehow they weirdly intersect in this genre. So it's really the only thing that we can watch together and agree on. But I've watched them all this year. Like, I've literally, any that have been on, I've watched. And specifically like the second part 2 of The Vow. Have you guys watched The Vow on HBO?
I
can't go there.
Consume that stuff at
You
all.
must.
Yeah.
You must. Because, and I will tell you why, and I will make a good case. You must, because if you don't, we are all so susceptible to this, and you will not recognize like the early signs unless you see it and see how it plays out. And it's not, I don't think it's too like graphic or crazy or anything. I think it's just really important information to be aware of, especially if you are someone who either works and serves in a personal development or spiritual space at all, or adjacent to, or someone who purchases within that industry or anything at all. I just think it's so important to know where it can go really wrong, and it's systematic and like over time. But anyway, on the point of like overriding our intuition, I think that that's the primary tactic, right? It's like, let's make sure that you know that everything that you feel and think, I know better.
Yeah.
And that's crap. Like, it's so wrong. Yeah. It's so unethical. It's so manipulative, and it's not correct. Like, I think a lot of coaches and people in this space often take that position because it's what they've seen works, and it's what they've seen creates authority and creates clients and all of that. And it doesn't mean it's ethical. It doesn't mean it's it doesn't mean it's the best way, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I could I mean, I think I noticed something the other day. I keep been getting a lot of like make X amount of money as a coach ads lately. And it was like, 10 p.m. when I shouldn't have been on my phone. And like that ad just, sparks a like total self-hate spiral.
Oh gosh.
And
I'm sorry.
And it's like, but to your point, it's like, it's so unethical, like these things. But then I was thinking, I was like, how did this thing that, has existed since forever, like coaching has existed since humans could communicate in any kind of form. And I mean, I have many opinions about why people think it's a scam. And I think it has a lot to do with misogyny. But when did this industry become a get-rich-quick scam? And I would love to know, like, it's just like, it's like mind-boggling. And so I think when we start using like quantifying measures as like metrics of success, it's just like so antithetical to the whole point of talking about your fucking feelings.
Absolutely.
It's so and I think, to kind of like bring it back, like if ethics and values aren't present, then there can be no consent in marketing. And like I come from, I worked in the wellness industry for like as a Pilates instructor. I mean, I still do a touch, but not as much as I really was. And I feel very fortunate, like the experience that I have had in the studios that I have worked have been like, my experience is not what the majority of people that go through a teacher training or work at a studio or any kind of capacity, even if you're like an energy exchange student, because there is this in this land where we say, and I think this is true with like a lot of like self-development industries, we're not like, the 9-to-5 world. We're different, but
we have no boundaries, and
we have
standard operating procedures.
But we still have a hierarchy, and whoever's at the top, which is like probably going to be a thin white woman, who we're just going to grab all the cultural appropriation and throw it into a bucket and then barf it back out and sell it to you at a like 4,000% markup. It's just like it is this like, I don't know. It's just like, where did we go wrong in this operation? It's so unfortunate, I think, because I don't even know if intentions are like necessarily that good. And I don't think intentions really matter if you're like creating so much harm in the world.
Yeah.
But like where and why, like, do we abandon ourselves and our values in that equation? And it's like, gosh, what a real mess. What a real mess.
A huge mess. It's like the industrializing of the coaching industry.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like industrialization.
Yeah.
But but in personal development. And
it's so funny.
There's so many answers to that.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you were talking about cults, Emily, because okay, so you have been a coach. How long have you been coaching again? How long have you been running your business? 7 years?
2014 full time.
Wow.
So this, I think if I calculated it right, I'm pretty sure this year has been my 8th, and I'm moving into my 9th year. So
holy cow.
I feel like a bit of an OG at this point.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
I mean,
honestly, considering like the insane influx that's occurred over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I would even say like the last 12 months.
Yes.
Like
yeah, that's what I was going to ask about, Emily, is like, you've seen this like you've seen this whole thing unfold. And I know you've talked about this before. I've seen content on your Instagram about this idea of like, you know, the transitions and the changes and the evolution of this industry, and your difficulties or honestly, your anger, honestly, around a lot of this stuff. Whether it's like, you know, oh, add spiritual onto it, and then there you go, you make more money, to like selling like your I love what you said recently about like selling your like
energy
as like
yes.
yeah, like and just being around people, because exactly like that's when it starts to get a little culty and scary.
That sounds like, even if that is the thing that's happening, that sounds fucking exhausting, and like I don't want to be participating in that economy.
Exactly. Like, there are so many angles. Yes. I think I did
Sorry, just to cut you off, Jacque.
I think I recorded a podcast on it. I know I wrote it in my newsletter, but then I think I took that and recorded a podcast on it. So it exists.
Well, we'll add to the show notes. But yeah, fuck.
Yeah, like I'm curious, like
no.
what that's been like for you in response to all of these things and like building a business. And you talk about evolutionary business and leadership, which I think is really key, of like being comfortable in the changes and the movements and the transitions. And I see you really like, I don't know, move through that with, it seems like it's easy, but it's probably not. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Earlier this year, I had a moment where I really started to recognize what was happening in the industry. Because I think, you know, we do our best to stay in our own lane and like keep your eyes on your own paper and do what you're doing and not like be over consumed by whatever everybody else is doing in the industry. And I had this moment where things that in theory should have worked stopped working. And I think that's always a great invitation and moment again, where we're like, okay, let's get curious. Let's really look and see what the landscape is like. Let's broaden our perspective here and get curious and see what we might find. And I started looking around and researching and looking at, you know, talking to people who have been past clients and not yet clients, and just people who have been engaged in my like Instagram content and stuff. And I've just had conversations with them, like real conversations, and asked them a lot of questions. And some of the things that they were saying is that they'd been like burned by a business coach before, or they had had really negative experiences or really disempowering experiences, or just really manipulative experiences and a lot of funky things. So I started to recognize that like, oh, I'm playing in a category of a game that I don't want to be playing in. And I didn't even realize it. Yeah. Let me figure that out. And so I started really going on this deep dive for me of just like clearing out a lot of what I had been doing, a lot of the messaging, really peeling through everything and searching for, okay, what's the core of what I'm actually doing? And I felt like at that time I was really marketing myself as a soulful business and leadership coach, which felt true and accurate because I am a soulful person, and I that's always how I will be regardless. I am led by intuition. I feel very connected to my calling in life, my mission, my purpose, like all of those things. And for me, business is less like, money is obviously important. We have to live and pay bills and feel well-resourced, but it's not the most important thing to me. And I've heard coaches years ago who I was like in a circle with be like, well, I realized that I'm not going to be a multimillionaire being a life coach, so I'm switching to being a business coach because I can make more money. And I was like, what the hell is that? Like, what? Like, it kind of blows my mind. Sometimes I think I might be very naive about a lot of things and people's motivations, because I really do, I think, see the best in people to sometimes a fault. And that's something I've worked on anyway. So I started really going on this deep dive of like, what do I really do? And I felt like the conclusion in that for me was this brand of like soulful, spiritual, whatever is actually not the core of what I'm doing. I'm actually supporting women entrepreneurs to become leaders and to become like smart business women who are savvy and who know how to make great decisions for themselves and who know how to stay in alignment and discern BS and everybody else's opinions from their own truth, and know how to, you know, actually build the skills as a leader and as a business owner to be as successful in all the ways that they want to be as they can. And to be also in that process very fulfilled by what they're doing and feel regenerated instead of depleted by whatever work they're choosing to do and however it is that they're choosing to do it. And that means that it matters how they structure it. It matters how they deliver it. It matters how they price it. It matters who they work with. It matters. All of these factors matter, right? And so I started going on this journey of just like rebranding everything and stripping away all of the things that felt like they were having me play in a category I didn't want to be associated with anymore. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's where we are. Yeah. And then I circled back to this concept or this brand name, whatever, WMNûp, that I had a couple years ago. And I was like, maybe this is the thing. This could be the thing. Like, I think this might be more reflective of actually the work that I'm doing. And I also wanted to kind of play with the idea of like, what if it was an actual business with an actual identity that wasn't me, that wasn't just my own brand and me as an individual, but what if it was more community, team, bigger, broader, more expanded than just me, Emily, telling people my ideas, right? Like, and that felt like an important move for me at this moment in time. So I started building that and built a community, and it sold over the 4th of July weekend. And we started with like 50 members, and it was kind of insane. I was like, that was the easiest thing I've ever done. Okay, we're on to something. And earlier this year, I started just hosting meetups here in Charleston because I was like, I'm craving, starving for connection and community and real life connection post-COVID. And I know so many women entrepreneurs who are now working remotely have moved here. Let's gather them. Like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I know how to do. If anything, I know how to gather the women and do the thing. Like, I know how to do that. When everything else is in question, I definitely know how to do that. So I started doing that super organically, and that was the easiest thing that ever happened too. People started inviting. And for me, I think ease and easy are slightly different concepts.
Yeah.
And for me, when it like enlivening, when I'm doing something that feels enlivening, like buzzy in my body, or when I feel like I'm doing something that just is like, oh my God, that felt great. And it was so easy for me. That's when I know, like, that's the breadcrumb to follow.
Yes. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean I'm not going to meet resistance, or it's not going to feel like it's stretching me, or that I don't have to learn anything new, or that I don't have to become a new version of myself to hold the capacity of what's coming. But it does mean that it feels right. It's in alignment. It feels like ease.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like, I call it like a compass of some sorts, but I agree when it feels congruent. We just had we were talking to Flory last week. Oh, well, I guess time's going to be weird. Last season we were talking to Flory. And that's something I've really learned from her, is like congruency. What's another? Integrous.
Yeah.
As well as something that she speaks a lot about. And that is even if it feels hard, it can't feel like I'm breaking off a piece of myself to meet or to fit into a mold of some sort. And even if it's against the grain of what other people expect from me, and all of these things, I think if it feels like it's supposed to be the direction that I'm moving it and in, like, And what I always find is it really works. Wow, it really resonates. And I think that's not necessarily like what – I think just people notice and see when authenticity is present.
Yes.
Especially from somebody that they're seeking. I mean, leadership from, guidance from, connection with, like, and I think that there's this misconception in the coaching industry where I think it's like a real lack of ego is what allows somebody to be a really incredible coach, because you are not the center. You are not part of the situation at all. You are sitting with a person in whatever like thing is present. And I think that's like a very radical, I mean, like what you're saying, like, oh, if I like literally just taking your name out of something is like such an incredible thing to do as a leader, because it, especially when you're talking about like connection, community, like gathering, like that feels very, very radical, especially in the business sphere.
It does.
Where you're told to like, you know, CEO of like whatever the fuck.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, whatever. We don't need to talk about men.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that that's something that I like, Emily, like we've been in each other's like so many different relationships together, right? Like we're friends, very good friends. We have been clients of one another's. We've been like worked for each other. Like there's all these different things. And I have always been fascinated. Emily's ability to, it's so good. Your ability to be like, I worked through this whole thing and I made this whole thing and I had all these ideas and this thing was going to be great. And then you're like, actually, no, drop it.
Yeah.
That is like,
that's sick.
It is sick. It's like badass shit.
Wait, when did I do that? When do I do that? I don't even know that I do that. Say more.
Well, you've done like, you know, I don't know, like, I had something simple from, I had this whole social media plan for the week to I built this whole container, or I built this whole program, or I decided this is how this thing is going to look, or this course. And I took time and energy and planning, and then it doesn't feel good anymore, or it doesn't feel whatever, or you get some kind of download and then it just goes like, you're like, never mind, moving on. And I think I've seen you do that
like
so
shedding
many
of
times.
Identity too, like you're just saying as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I've seen you do that so many times. And I think like, it's so cool because I think we can go to like, we can hold on to things and we can say, well, I spent all this time and this energy on this version of my business or this version of myself or this thing, so I have to see it through, or I have to know what it's going to be. And you just have this incredible trust, I think, which is really maybe the thing in there where you're just like, nope, not right now, or nope, that's not it, or whatever, even though you've put all this energy and time. And that is, like Phoebe said, that is some sick stuff. Like it's so good.
I think it's also learned because that's what makes a great entrepreneur and a great business and a great leader is when we don't over attach and when we are not willing to let go and when we fall into the fallacy of sunk cost, right?
Yes.
Like when we are so attached to what we've created that we can't let it go and we can't move on even though it's not working. And my goal is to like shorten the amount of time between awareness and action of those moments. Because the longer, and I've learned, right, the longer we hold on to the things that aren't working because we're trying to fix it and we're trying to resolve things and we think it's going to be just like a little tweak. And sometimes it is, but a lot of times, and I think it's also this devotion for me to what's sustainable. I am so unwilling to sacrifice my sanity, well-being, joy, freedom, fulfillment, whatever, in order to like force something to work. I will not, because I know that that's never the right path anyway. And if I'm in a mode of forcing, I'm missing probably like a wide open door that is for me and trying to like force this window open over here and not paying attention. So I think there's constantly like these cycles, like there are, in a menstrual cycle, in a moon cycle, in seasons, in anywhere in nature that you look, you will see these cycles that include death and release. And that's a necessary part of evolution in any way, shape, or form, anywhere you look. And I think it's really what we have to learn, a lot of us, especially, I was thinking about this yesterday, like so many of us who are drawn to an entrepreneurial path would probably self-identify as like perfectionists or control freaks, or, we have trust issues or something. Like I hear that all the time from women.
Yeah.
And it's like, great. That's what you're here to. This is the crucible you are walking through then, is letting all of that die, because you will not be able to move anything forward or experience anything good in your business or life until that is like removed bit by bit. Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I always wonder, like when we, perfectionism, or it doesn't matter whatever gremlin, whatever like iteration of a gremlin that we're dealing with. The question I always have for myself, for clients, for friends, like collaborators, et cetera, it's like, okay, well, where's this seed? Like who planted this thing?
Yep.
Where is this coming from? And so often when we talk about like, if we're going to quantify something, okay, that's going to probably come from capitalism. If we're going to talk about like the depiction of perfection, like that's going to come from white supremacy. So like, let's get real about the thing that we're serving here. And like, do we want our perfectionism like gremlin to be like, oh, I can't possibly launch my website because the white supremacist inside of me is telling me that. Like, let's just like call these things what they are. And I think that's like, we do it's such a disservice to ourselves by like, I mean, how many podcast episodes do I need to talk about like Instagram carousels just like ruining our lives? Because we're gonna call it perfectionism. We're gonna call it burnout. We're gonna call it like these oversimplification of these like very very deep
nuanced
shit, like deep shit.
Yeah, I think I love that you just said that, and I think the one thing that I'm also really devoted to, and I know you both are too, and I think it's why I love listening to this podcast, is like the nuance that exists. Like, why are we pretending everything's fucking black and white? It isn't, especially when it comes to business, especially when you're a woman in business. Sorry, there's like 10,000 different layers of everything. And if someone that you are working with as a coach or a mentor or a consultant or whoever is looking at things in like a very like not a holistic way, in a very siloed way, in a very reductive way.
There's one truth. No. This is the thing that worked for me and it shall work for you. God damn it.
Literally no. Like that never is true. I've rarely seen that to be true. And so often when clients will ask me like, oh, well, should I do this or this? I probably annoy them because I send them like a 10-minute Voxer of, well, here are all the different sides of this decision. And if it feels really true for you, then probably go this way. But if you're not feeling super clear, here's the pro and con of every single option. And here's a third option that you may not have thought of. And what if it didn't have to be one or the other? What if it could be both? Or what if it looked like this instead? Or because I can really see you and I'm in your business with you, here's what I could see you doing maybe is like maybe something you haven't thought of, this third option. What if it could look like this? And what if it layered with this other thing that you're doing? So really looking at like the whole ecosystem of the business and the leader who's in the business and the woman who's behind the business, like leading the business, I think is so important. And I think so many people are not doing it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always going to be the middle.
Yes. It's always going to be the gray. I was going to ask you something. Oh, I am curious about this like tension though, right? Because, and I'm going to get there, I promise. But something that Emily talks about, you talk about a lot, Emily, is the woman who believes that they must abandon this part of themselves to be in business, in leadership, like, etc. I cannot be mother and I cannot be wife and I cannot be, or I like business or life, right? Or like role, like I cannot function as a person in all of these ways, which obviously and clearly we can, right? We know why women think these things. We know where this comes from. Men aren't worried about if they can function in like all these different ways or whatever, right? They're not having these things, but that's not true. I shouldn't say that. Anyways, we know what I'm saying. But like that I think is like interesting because when we talk about, I think that this can get confused, this idea of like you have to shed, you have to go through the shadows, you have to work through the things you carry, like that's your crucible kind of thing. And this idea of like also moving forward. It's like in a way, right? Or like I've seen it in myself. I know you see it in other clients, and this idea of like, I can't deal with this. I can't build a business until I deal with this. Mm-hmm. I can't do this until I feel good about this.
Oh yeah.
I can't be out on Instagram until I deal with my body, whatever. I can't like whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. I can't be mother and da-da-da. And I did that. I literally did that. You know what I mean? Like, and I want you to speak to that because I think it's so powerful. And I think people can get confused about this is your thing that is always going to be there and you're always going to be challenging or like, and they just kind of go like, I give up or I can't do all of it or whatever. You know what I mean? Am I, does this make sense?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. I love this question and this conversation because again, so nuanced. I think what I've seen a lot lately is a lot of women shutting down their businesses because they're unsustainable for them, essentially. What they say is, oh, well, I'm choosing to focus on my family, or I'm having another baby, or I'm going to go heal this thing, or whatever. But actually, what I hear and see beneath that is the way that I've been doing this is not sustainable to have a whole life or to handle other identities or to, you know, have both of the things that I want. And I have set myself up and set my business up most likely. And my relationship to my business, the dynamic that's between me and my business has been established, or more broadly, more generally, my relationship to work, my relationship to productivity, my relationship to creating and what I create, my relationship to how people see and perceive me as a product of the work that I put out in the world or whatever, or how much I'm doing to be validated, whatever. It could be lots of things, as we know, but what I'm hearing is I didn't build it in a way that I could have it all. Like that I could actually have both of the things that I want, or a few, you know, the full spectrum of what I actually want to experience in life. Because probably, if I had to guess, most of the business advice that I took or followed was very patriarchal and misogynistic and written by an old white man who graduated from an Ivy League college, who was inherently privileged and never had to think about being a caretaker in the format of the way he structured his business and the way that he went about doing it. So obviously, probably a little bit of a different equation we're going to have to use and implement. And who also, by the way, probably didn't bleed out for 7 days a month and go through a hormonal cycle and all of it. I mean, come on. Like, obviously, we can fucking do better and we deserve better than having to pick either, am I going to run myself into the ground or am I going to be a mom? Like, why are those the options? No. Stop it. Please, those are not the only options. Like, I feel so, like, I'm, like, getting sweaty thinking about it. It's so annoying. I'm like, why? And why is this the stuff that also women are perpetuating and coaching other women to continue doing when it's not helping or serving anyone? Because, sorry, dog.
No.
They're with you. They're behind it.
It's not a pod recording without a dog.
I have him by the collar now. He's under me. You interrupted my rant.
other women coaching
Oh,
other women in
yes.
this. Yeah.
It's not helping anybody to
No.
It's perpetuating self-harm and harm of others. It's so odd. And then also it doesn't actually like at the end of the day, the goal is to maybe serve your mission in life, right? To serve the work that you're here to do and the people that you're here to serve and yourself in the process in a way that's ethical. And it doesn't do that either, because you can't be burnt out and literally laid out for weeks on end and still be serving your mission for the long haul.
No. Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. We know that.
No.
Yeah.
And also, and also wherever you go, there you are. So like your operating system around doing anything, even if it's motherhood, is going to end you in the same place until you deal with the core of what's really going on, what's motivating it, and actually heal some of or not heal necessarily, develop better coping mechanisms for the coping strategies of things like perfectionism, of things like overworking, of things like anything that gets us into the state of burnout or the place where we feel uninspired or like we can't go on in this way, right? That has us create things that are unsustainable in the first place and put ourselves into it. Those are my thoughts.
I could I have 7 TED Talks inside of me about exactly this. But I think it's so important, and I think leading with again, honesty and I mean, it sounds like such an oversimplification. Honesty, authenticity, but it really is curiosity. Yeah. And this willingness to deconstruct the thing the moment it doesn't feel right, I think is what we all all caps, that's what we're so what then otherwise, why are we here? Right. What is even the point? Exactly. Why get up? What are you talking about? So I don't know. That's all the things that I have.
I think, can I add just one little thing to that?
Please.
I think the thing that sometimes we don't recognize is that sometimes the thing we need to deconstruct is not outside of us. Sometimes it's the thing in us, right? And I think that's important maybe for people to hear. We've said it, but maybe
it's all
said it fully. Because sometimes, like what Jacqueline was saying about my ability to apparently burn shit down whenever it doesn't feel right. That's not from my view. It's not just I had a feeling that was off and so I'm never doing this again. It's this isn't coming from fear. And I've done all of the floating around it and getting curious about all the pieces and what if I changed this and no, still not, and then this wouldn't really make sense because that would mean more time and energy and that's not being compensated, so that doesn't make sense. And I've gone through all the other questions about what's my role, what's my piece of it, what's going on in me, right? Is it my own resistance, is it this, is it that? And I kind of worked it from all the angles and then get to the conclusion of here's what's asking to actually be destroyed or deconstructed so that there's space for something new to come in. Sometimes I think we have a tendency to maybe hear that message and then go into this doesn't feel right, and then we end up doing nothing, right? We end up creating nothing and sticking to nothing and being consistent with nothing because we can never feel amazing about every single thing we do every day, including feeding ourselves. I fucking hate doing that most days. It's annoying. I don't like to do it, but do I want my hormones to be crazy and my skin to break out and me to feel like crap? No. So I feed myself.
Oh. I'm glad you made that distinction because exactly that is not what I meant by Emily can just kind of move on or whatever. No. Yeah. It's not. It's always more. There's always more happening.
Yeah.
Oh, Emily, thank you.
I know. 2023, do you ever feel like first action is extending our interview time?
I know we have to.
Part 2.
Because it is, yes, absolutely. Please come back whenever you, need another microphone to talk shit into. Is there anything that we'll drop all of your links at all the places, but is there anything that you want to share with the people, where to find you, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. I guess, you can find me on Instagram is really my most present place. Either at Emily Cassel Official, which is more of my where I tend to be. And then my business account is at WMNûp, spelled WMNûp. No vowels, except I guess a U is a vowel, but and then, I also have a podcast called Like Nobody's Business that you could tune into and listen to wherever you're listening to this. So I sometimes forget to say that I have a podcast also. Yes, I do.
Us as well. Or maybe what do you do? I'm like, what day is it today? I'm not sure.
Who am I? TBD. Every day.
Right now, I'm very into cults.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a cult expert, actually.
That's how I feel sometimes. People are like, who are you? And I'm like, right now in this moment, because that's all I've got. Yeah. All I've got is what I'm obsessed with right now. Yeah. I don't have anything
dog
else.
Walker.
Exactly.
I am a dog something right now, holding this one by the collar.
Wrangler.
Don't move.
Wrangler.
Don't make a
Oh
big.
my God.
I love you.
It really is not do you ever feel like recording without a dog appearance? Before you jumped on, I was yelling at my dog to shush. So
yeah.
They have opinions too.
They're the best and the worst. All the time.
We love them. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Great.
This was so fun.
Come back.
I want
there's
to.
so much more to be said.
I want to talk about other stuff too. I want to talk about the normal.
We can talk about it all.
Do you ever feel like
the normal? Is there normal?
Yes, your solo episodes or solo, but you're together. The ones where you're just this rant.
Bring a question.
Yeah. Well, we can do that next time.
We can do that. Absolutely. Please.
Yes.
Please.
Now that people know me-ish. I don't know.
Yeah.
We can just get
We do
there.
the soft intro and then we hard launch. Yeah.
That's how it's been with every guest so far. They're like, no, there's more to be done. Yeah. We will come. Which is great.
Love it.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank
you so much. Thank you for listening to Do You Ever Feel Like?
Follow This Chaos wherever you get your podcasts.
Our artwork is by Simon Peng. Do You Ever Feel Like is produced by Jacqueline Wills
and Phoebe Taylor. You can follow us on Instagram at DoYouEverPod.
You can write to us at doyoueverpod@gmail.com. Okay, bye!